All right. So my name is Ross. I'm with the admissions office. A lot of you I see on this call are people that I think I've seen in other sessions and talked to. So thanks for coming for another great opportunity to hear more about the Columbia Journalism School experience. As a lot of you probably know, the application for applying for this cycle will be coming up on December 15th. So just a few weeks away. So hopefully a lot of you are maybe in the kind of the middle of getting into an application, working on some of the documents and getting things together, which is great. Plenty of time still to kind of polish everything and get those recommendation letters and other things in. So this is a great time to have a conversation like the one we're having today, which I'm really happy to host. And this is a highlight for every kind of recruitment cycle I do every year, which is to have some current students from Columbia Journalism School talk more about the student experience from their perspective, kind of being in the middle of things right now and giving some insights into what it is like to report in New York City, be a student in this community here at Columbia, and kind of work on the different types of stories you can pursue as a student here. So we're going to have a great panel. I'm really happy to have Victoria Newsom, Una Kim, and Zach Jaworski joining us today, and they will tell you more about kind of where they're coming from and what they've been working on here in a moment. So I think to start, since a lot of people on this call are kind of like where all of you three were a year ago, thinking about applying, working on applying at this time of year, maybe you can take us back and tell us a bit about what your kind of thought process was like back then. What were you doing a year ago, and what was your kind of inspiration to want to apply for grad school? I think we'll start with Victoria for that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria Newsom. I'm a full-time MS student, and last year around this time, I was a undergrad at Villanova University in Villanova, PA, which is right outside like Philadelphia. I was studying journalism and communications with a minor in business, and I was considering an on-air broadcasting path. I was looking at MMJ jobs, sports reporting jobs, and I really wanted to think about going back and being able to kind of sharpen up on my skills. So I was looking at grad schools, a multitude of them, and Columbia was the one that stood out to me most. And in the application process, I knew I wanted to be in New York City. I knew that Columbia has those high network and like built face-to-face connections with those alums who will help support you every step of the way. And also, like New York has good sports. So I'm very passionate about covering sports. And in the city, you'll get those types of opportunities. And just the campus itself, the environment. I remember as a junior in college at Villanova, I did my first visit to campus and I toured the J school and I took one of those like walkthrough tours and I was absolutely obsessed. I got to see the TV studio, walk through the halls and see the audio booths, was able to talk to Ross and m many other professors, Dean Cobb. And I was really just wrapped into the Columbia journalism way. And I just was like, I have to go here. I'm going to apply. And those were kind of my thought processes there.
Great. And how about you? What were you doing a year ago, and what was your kind of reasoning for putting in that application?
Yeah, so a year ago, I was actually working full time. I've been in New York for quite a while, and I've been working for around like 8 years, and I had absolutely no journalism experience, like none at all. I would say my journalism experience was very limited to like, just student productions in undergrad, which was a really long time ago, or, just doing kind of like freelance, kind of just personal kind of content creation type stuff. But I was working full time at Meta at Instagram, and I was running one of their editorial channels at Design. And it was basically a lot of just commissioning creators and creatives for marketing campaigns and storytelling initiatives. And excuse me. And I was working with a lot of creators from marginalized communities who are creatives as well. And, historically, marginalized communities were very excluded from, just the mainstream. And I began to realize, oh, this also applies in the creative field as well. And I was provided an opportunity to write a lot of the copywriting for these marketing campaigns and also just for like internal, external memos and whatnot. And I realized I was terrible at it. I was really, really horrible at copywriting. And I could not, the process was just like, it just made me realize I need to work on this skill. And I think the best way to do it is to pursue journalism so that I can do a better job of getting, historically marginalized communities' voices out there in a more, just like honor them in a better way, and to craft stories around them, um, in a way that does them justice. Because I realized I was just so bad at it, and I didn't want to mess up their stories, and that's why I decided to pursue a journalism degree at Columbia. Columbia specifically because, like Victoria said, it's New York City. There's stories everywhere in New York City. I think it's the best city in the world. I'm from LA originally, so I don't know how much weight my opinion holds, but I've been here for 8 years. I haven't left, and I'm not thinking about leaving. And Columbia is just solidifying that even more.
Great. And Zach, what's your story for coming to the school?
Yeah, so forgive me if my voice is a little bit, my throat's a little bit sore, but a year ago today, I was probably editing my campus newspaper because we didn't necessarily have a formal journalism program where I went. I studied political science by trade, which is, very much leads into my reporting, which is centered around politics. And I was based in upstate New York, and there really wasn't a bunch of competition there to to get to stories or to go out and chase politicians around. And I knew that New York City, like, where a better place to do that than here, especially given everything that happened this past fall with the mayoral election, which kind of got thrown into the national spotlight. That was just so exciting to be part of all of that. And I knew I wanted to kind of get that experience, sort of cutting my teeth in a much larger media market. So that was super appealing. But also, I was doing a lot of day to day coverage while I was in college. I was also interning for the local NPR station. And one thing I really wanted more of was like long form investigative pieces and sort of, really deep diving into things. So that's kind of what led me to apply later on to the Stabile program at Columbia, which is what I'm in. I'm in the MS program, but I'm also in the Stabile, which is the investigative program. So really just wanted to, come here and learn from the best. I've been in New York my entire life, but never the city. I grew up in Buffalo. I went to school in the Adirondacks, and I lived in central New York for a little while too. And Columbia has just always been that sort of city on the hill in terms of journalism and journalistic integrity that, you always want to strive to be like that. And that's sort of what really drove me to apply. And it was Columbia or nothing for me. So
Cool. And I know a couple of you were undergrads just a year ago, and a lot of people maybe on this call are currently undergrads or just finished their undergrad. Maybe we can talk a little bit about how this experience of being a master's student at Columbia Journalism School, where you're really out doing journalism, differs from what you might be familiar with from undergraduate life. And Victoria, maybe you can start that conversation.
It's vastly different. New York City, it's so exciting to be able to go and find those stories here. And there's a lot to go from. So I feel like being at Columbia Journalism, when you're first starting in your reporting classes, which is a foundational class here, you are actually out in the city. They're like, go out and report. You're talking to strangers who have no idea who you are. You're trying to get information and sources. And yes, it's hard. You're walking down the street and someone doesn't want to talk to you, but that's the business. And you have to keep striving and pushing forward and asking those open-ended and deep questions to get the answers you need for your story. And it also has challenged me so much to just get out of my comfort zone and be comfortable in being uncomfortable sometimes. Because for me, I love reaching out to people, but I also am super type A and I want to make sure everything's right for the story and that everything's moving smoothly in my process. And I feel like so far in reporting, it helped me become a better writer. And in undergrad, not usually, you get those experiences to actually go out and be like, hello, I'm a reporter with Columbia Journalism, or certain reporting classes, you actually had the chance to possibly publish your work through a publication through the class. And so you actually have your byline down and you worked for that story to be shown and shared with everyone else. So you don't get those experiences everywhere. And being able to get that here was huge for me because in undergrad, I didn't have that opportunity. And being able to actually meet new people because I love meeting new people of all backgrounds from everywhere and getting to hear their experiences because it's a learning process for you. You're actually experientially learning from people. You're meeting everybody under the sun, and it's such a great time, and you'll learn a lot through this program.
Cool. And what's it been like doing this program, having, obviously done an undergrad program before, but how does this experience been different?
I would say undergrad is it's a little bit more defined by blocks of time. You definitely have your school life and you definitely have your personal life. So it's like You go to class, you do your homework, and then you can go out or do something else, right? I would say for grad school, it kind of bleeds all together. It's you have school and then you go out and you have to do reporting and follow up on your sources and then do more outreach and then get feedback and then make edits. So I don't want to say it's never ending, but it makes you take a lot of initiative. So if you want a great story, you're gonna have to put in that extra work to make a great story. You're gonna have to talk to a couple more people. You're gonna have to make a couple more phone calls. You're gonna want to, take your piece to your professor and get those edits. So it's like you can do the bare minimum, but I would say at Columbia, everyone's striving to write great stories. So everyone is taking the initiative to do that extra legwork to make to be able to publish, to be able to share those stories in a really, really great way. Um, so it really forced me to take a lot of initiative. And I was inspired by just what everyone else is doing. Zach and Victoria did the election coverage, and they were like I was watching the YouTube stream. They were on my TV, and they were running around New York. And it was just really, really inspiring to, go to school with colleagues like Zach and Victoria who are just doing their best. I'm also doing my best. I'm just saying. But it's it really pushes you in the best way, I would say.
Cool. Zach, what would you say about how this experience differs from what you were used to as an undergrad?
Well, thank you very much for your kind words. I'm sure Victoria agrees as well. I say the biggest difference, and Ross, you actually described it this way to me when I was, zooming in the same position as the folks that are in here today. This is kind of like a full-time job. You get hired for a major news organization and you're just out covering things. And I think that's what's really different about it. When you're an undergrad, unfortunately, I always joke that I like majored in the school newspaper. This is actually like majoring in school newspaper, majoring in broadcast, or majoring in radio because you're actually doing it all the time. There it was kind of relegated like the second thing you do, but here it's like if you love journalism and you love reporting, you're going to really learn how much you love it because you're going to be doing it 24/7. But it really is great though, because like it gives you a chance to constantly be around these things and go to different talks and go to different speakers that come in and really learn from everybody. And it really is what you get out of it. I mean, constantly, like if you want to spend your noon break listening to somebody from CBS News or from I don't know, ABC, or somebody from the New York Times or Washington Post come in, like they're here and they're talking to people. So it's really what you make of it. It's a constant kind of journalism overload if you really are into it, and I love it. So I mean, hopefully everyone else loves it too if you're planning to go to school here. But really, it is like a full-time journalism job, and you get a whole lot of experience doing that too. So that's where it differs most. Is like this is where you really have the chance to grow into that field, and I didn't necessarily have it as an undergrad.
Mhm. Great. And I know all Master of Science students, no matter what their interests may be, what kind of program specialization they might be in, start the program with a reporting module. So you go out into New York City to do reporting. If you've never done it before, it's your first foray into that. If you have done reporting, it's a chance to kind of build on the experience you've already done, maybe as an undergrad or in your professional life. But what is it like starting the program, being, told to go out and find stories in the city with your faculty member kind of guiding you as your editor? Victoria, what was it like starting the program that way?
I absolutely loved it. I had Joanne Ferry on, and our reporting class, we had the publication called the Bronx Bulletin. So we all were assigned different districts in the borough of the Bronx. I had District 2, but I also kind of floated around those areas, which is Hunts Point and Longwood. And I was able to cover a variety of stories. My first story was about dads bringing their kids to school day and at a Head Start program in the Bronx, to Guns Down Life Up, which is a organization that helps people who are suffering or recovering from gun violence trauma. So it's like you can do a wide array of stories and topics, and your professor, like Joanne, was amazing at helping and being a great editor. It was a constant conversational process of getting stories, pitching, 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 pitching. That's the biggest thing. Pitching stories that make sense, that you've well reported, done the research, and then also you have to communicate that with your editor and kind of going from what angle should we do this from? Where do you see the story? What characters do we want to focus on in this story? Because you might have a bunch of characters. You might go out and report and you have all these amazing characters, these great quotes, but how are we going to put this to 800 words? 500 words, or even our big enterprise story at the end, which was over 1,000 words. And my last story, I did it on flag football in the Bronx and a young group called the Hunts Point Jets, which is like an affiliate of the Jets' community program, where these kids had the opportunity to play last year at the flag football championship in Canton, Ohio, because they won the New Jersey Regional Championship. And I had a chance to do a feature on these kids who are incredible girls playing flag football for the first time. And you get to do a variety of stories like that. The heartfelt, you get to do hard news, big topics like gun violence, and then you can do more like softer tone stories that also cater to what you want to do. And that's what I really like about it. You get to work with the group too, because we had a group chat. And we were able to discuss, hey, if we saw a story there, we were like, oh, this is a good story for you. And we were able to tag each other and help each other out. And I think that's what this is all about too. Like, it's not just you. It's a community, and you're able to do journalism, better journalism together.
Great. And Yuna, I know you were in Professor Haydu's reporting group starting off the year. What was the experience with him like?
I love Professor Haydu. If you guys get into the program, you guys would be so lucky to take a class with him. Um, Professor Haydu he's actually the MA Arts and Culture professor, but he was doing the reporting for the culture sequence reporting students, and I was part of the culture sequence. Um, and context, I have done no reporting before. I do not have any journalism experience. So this was all new to me. I came in not knowing how to interview, not knowing how to just like present myself as a reporter or what to do with that information, how to record or, just go through that whole spiel. I had no idea. I came out of that reporting class I would say like a seasoned veteran. Like I have seen and heard so much, experienced so much. It really, really just opened my eyes to the world of journalism. And it provided just a wide skill set that I can take into any industry. And it's come in handy in just so many different avenues of my life, not just journalism. Um, but yeah, it was really intense, but I really loved it because I got to speak with so many people. It really took me out of my comfort zone. And it made me realize that stories can come from anywhere and from anybody. Like you could literally just talk to a random student out on the quad and they'll have a story for you. So that like discovering that beauty in just like being able to talk to a human and share their story. It was just really eye-opening and really, really moving for me. So yeah, it was the best class that I took so far. Other than the written word class, which is also by Haydu. I love him so much. But yeah.
Cool. And Victoria mentioned a couple stories she did there. Any highlights in terms of the stories you got as a reporting student?
Oh yeah, so the last story that I did for reporting that Professor Haydu and I worked on, it was a story for the Met Opera about the Met Opera and how the fashions have been changing because of the policy changes that they've been putting to be a little bit more inclusive for all ages, and they're commissioning new types of productions that speak to modern audiences, and that kind of reflects in the changing fashions of the audience who are showing up at the opera. And so wrote it. It was really, really fun. I got to watch a couple of operas with my student little press badge and my student ID. And Professor Haydu and I are actually working on pitching it to the New York Times. So, and that's another great thing about Columbia is that your professors are really well connected and they're just like the top notch of the journalism industry. Like they're producing great work. They know great journalists. So if they see that, oh, like this is a great piece of, journalism, they will, push you to pitch it to their colleagues, to, different organizations. So that's been really exciting for me.
And Zach, you mentioned, of course, you had majored in the student newspaper as an undergrad. What was it like, having obviously worked in journalism and as a student before, but kind of going into this, experience of reporting in New York and starting the experience in a different city, a big city, after at least familiarizing yourself with the profession for a bit?
Yeah, well, I had quite possibly the two best professors for that specific idea of assimilating to New York. I had Professor Benitez, who worked at us at New York One for a couple decades, and he is quite possibly one of the most connected journalists in this city. He knows everybody. He is one phone number away from every major political candidate. I swear, like if he wants somebody to come on his podcast, he can get him on there right away. And then I also had Bill Gruskin, who was the former deputy managing editor of the Wall Street Journal. So this is a guy who's been at the very top of journalism, one of the most respected publications in this city and in this country and in the world too. And these two guys know so much about how New York works, and they're able to really help me catch up on that. Uh, our beat for the overall class was labor, which is a bit sort of unique. I know a lot of different classes had geographical areas they were covering, but we had to kind of cover everything within that sort of overall general labor idea. And that was actually really great because one of the big things early on in the year in New York City is the Labor Day parade, which is also coincidentally kind of what helped me do all my reporting on the mayoral election, is because every single candidate, everybody who's a major player in New York City is there. You get to go out and meet them and talk to them, and it's really accessible, and they really push you to do that. And honestly, if I wasn't being pushed to go out there and meet these different people, I don't think I would have. So I got to give both of them a lot of credit for that. And I know one of the other questions was one of the favorite stories I produced. I would say, so I pitched my own beat actually, and it was on formerly incarcerated workers reintegrating into the workforce, which kind of was the labor angle on that. And so it was a lot of covering Rikers Island, what was going on there. But one of the big things that happened during my reporting class was New York State released recommendations to change their solitary confinement law, which has kind of been a years long thing going on now, and especially with the prison strike last spring, for anyone who's familiar with that. So my favorite story I did on that was talking to, formerly incarcerated people who had been in solitary and asking them sort of how they felt like, this potential legislation could impact their ability to, get jobs post incarceration, and also talking to different experts and the state's prison bureau, of course, too. And that was probably my favorite one I did.
Cool. And you can find the link for that in the chat if you're interested as well as some of Victoria's work. Another question for the first part of the semester, as Ruby talked about, you do reporting, and that's something where you're kind of assigned a reporting group. But then you have choices in terms of what you want to do for the second half of the term, and that's where we currently are as students in the program, where you get to take, as an MS student, a writing class and an image and sound class, where you get to focus in a multimedia kind of technology or storytelling method. And this is where, again, you get a balloting process where you can pick amongst different options. Victoria, what writing and kind of image and sound class did you pick, and what was kind of the process of deciding what you wanted to focus on?
So I picked sports writing as my written word, and then I picked image and sound video, which is like video production class. I chose sports writing because post grad, I want to be a sports reporter on air, but I wanted to sharpen up more on my writing skills in sports. And in my class, our professor is Jared Diamond. He works for the Wall Street Journal covering baseball nationally. So the World Series, if you guys watched that, that was crazy this year. He was there and he was like flying from like there back to our class to teach us. So that gives us some kind of like idea of who we're working with as well. And he actually connects us to different teams all over the city where we are actually credentialed to cover that team. So I was able to cover the Brooklyn Nets, which was my first NBA game I was able to cover. And the task there was to write a game story and focus it on a specific person that stood out to you, something beyond the stats. So telling a story within all these numbers has been something that has been really new for me to look into as well, because a lot in sports is focused on, oh, how many points did they score, all of that, but who are these people and who are they beyond their sport? So he challenges us to do that. And then in my video class, which I love so much. And Yuna actually on this call is my partner for our short documentary we have to make. We are assigned a bunch of different topics and we actually got to vote on what we wanted to do. We're able to go out, shoot those scenes, learn how to use the camera, learn how to film B-roll and create scenes, which you'll learn soon if you come here. And then in addition to that, we were able to kind of put like a shot list together and an outline to build our short documentary, which I'm excited for hopefully you all to see soon.
Cool. And yeah, Yuna, I know you are working with Professor Haydu again in the writing class. What's it like kind of continuing that, but in a more writing focused kind of format? Obviously, reporting is writing, but this is definitely about the craft of writing a bit more. What's that been like? And then, yeah, how's it been collaborating? I know collaboration is a big part of a lot of student experience here with Victoria on the video.
Well, I'll just talk about the collaborating first, just because Victoria ended with it. But I love I mean, maybe I just got really lucky with my partner, who is Victoria. But so far, every collaboration that we've had with other students has been really, really just great, like efficient, seamless. Like I mentioned before, everyone here is so smart. Everyone here is so driven. So it's really easy to just, figure out a plan. What are we gonna do? And everyone's just kind of on the same page. So this is my experience working with Victoria, but Victoria's been amazing, and we've been doing this short documentary. And I don't really have experience in like traditional video filming or anything like that. So Victoria's been really, really helpful just with the editing process, but also just like the pitching process and everything. So you will meet a lot of different students who can kind of like who can balance out maybe your skill set. Like I definitely came in with more of an editorial. Victoria definitely, she's going to be a broadcaster in the future, like 100%. So I teach her things, she teaches me things. So that's been really fun to just learn from your fellow peers. And my culture class, love my culture class. Again, it's with Professor Haydu. I'm just like obsessed with him. He's one of the best professors I've ever had in my entire life. But the culture writing class, we basically wrote a cultural piece and then an opinion piece, a arts critique, which was for a movie that was only in theaters, and then our final assignment was a profile. So it's really covering a lot of different cultural aspects of journalism that I never really knew had different standards. And my favorite was writing an opinion piece about Asian American representation in Hollywood. And because Daniel Day Kim did this great interview. But regardless, it's just really opened my eyes to like how cultural writing can have so many different avenues, but still hold a journalistic standard. So just learning about that and learning how to do it properly and really do it well. Because sometimes people just think it's an opinion piece. Like, how hard can it be? No, like it's different. Like you really have to apply journalistic standards to it. So you can't just write, I love, Columbia Journalism School. You have to have an argument and you have to present it in not even like in an essay type way, but like present it in a way that's beautiful and like sometimes poetic. So that has been really, really fun for me. Yeah, my culture writing class and Victoria in working with Victoria in video has been really, really great.
Cool. And I'm also a former student of Professor Haydu, and I think it's probably correct that you don't just kind of turn something in and just like get a little comment. You get a lot of edit, you get a lot of, feedback. So anything you kind of put in here, our faculty put in a lot of time to like make sure it's going to be really excellent when you do that next revision, because you get that kind of real professional editorial kind of process here. Cool. And Zach, I know, like you are continuing working with a professor that you had for reporting. You're working with Bill Gruskin in your writing class, which is an editing focused course. Can you tell us a little bit about that and also the audio course that you chose for your image and sound?
Yes, I also could not wane off the reporting professor quite yet either. So I'm taking news editing with Bill Gruskin, kind of for every reason I said earlier. He was the former deputy managing editor of the Wall Street Journal. He was the executive editor for training at Bloomberg. I think he was a news editor for the Palm Beach Post or no Miami Herald. So he's been all over the country reporting at this or editing at the highest level. And kind of my background editing my student newspaper, I knew I wanted to have more of a formal training in that because, anytime there's students running editorial, policies on things, it's not always going to be the best. So it's good to learn from somebody who did it professionally and did it for a long time professionally. That eventually I want to move my career that way, but also just taking that class as somebody who wants to stay as a reporter too, it's super useful because you never want to be a reporter that editors don't want to work with. And if you learn kind of how an editor thinks about your stories and how an editor is, deciding whether or not they're going to accept your pitch or not, or whether or not they're going to use this quote or not, then you're going to turn in better copy and you're going to turn in better stuff. And you're not going to necessarily have as many conflicts with the editor. And that's always a good thing because you want to be a reporter that sticks around in the industry. You want to be someone the editor is like going to go to bat for, and they're not going to go to bat for someone who turns in bad copy. It makes their lives harder. So it's just good to go out and, learn on that side. And also Professor Gruskin is just really a blast to be around. So if y'all are lucky enough to have a class with him, I'd really recommend taking one with them. And yeah, then my image and sound class is audio. Audio is one of my great loves. course, I mentioned I interned at NPR affiliate station. I love the medium. I love being able to go out and record people's voices authentically and record different sounds from areas. And that class is co-taught by Robert Smith, who, if any of you guys are NPR fans, he is the host of Planet Money, which is one of the best podcasts out there. And it's also co-taught by Lydia McMullen Laird, who's worked at WNYC as a production in the production side for a long time. So it's really a great balance there of Robert being a great reporter and on-air personality, and Lydia being a great producer. And they come together and they really are teaching it, wonderfully. And kind of like Una had mentioned with the pitching stories in the New York Times, Robert's really helping us all to pitch to WNYC or pitch to NPR, and you're being really pushed to do these things. That's such a great opportunity, to come here and really learn from the best. And they both certainly are. All three of them, and Bill Gruskin, Lydia, and Robert, are all some of the best in their industry, and that's why coming here to learn from them is just such a great opportunity. And that's one thing too. It's like I had experience in both of these kind of things, news editing at a student level and also audio production at an intern level, but really having the opportunity to come here and learn from the tippy top, as I mentioned earlier, the city on the hill, the best of the best out there. That's kind of what makes those classes so attractive.
Right. So this has been a great chat about kind of the academic side, the classes, these things you get to do, whether it's in audio and writing and visual storytelling, all these different great things you can do as a student. Thought I'd focus now a little bit on the community here amongst students, amongst us, the whole kind of CJS world. And Victoria, you were elected president of the Columbia Journalism School student government. So as president, I know it's only been a month or two into the year, but what are some of the things you're excited to kind of focus on in that role?
I'm super excited to work with the Career Development Office and get everything ready for our Spring Career Expo. That is one of our biggest projects we're working on right now, and we did a survey to students of what companies would you like to see, what are you inspired by, what do you want to do? So we were able to this week to actually present it to the Career Development Office, and we were able to get their insight of what the students want, like who do they want to see? What employers are they inspired by? So we were able to do that. And in general, I'm really excited to just connect with other colleges in the school. So like SEPA, the law school, the business school, we're constantly working to communicate with their student governments and plan events with ours, whether that's a panel, a social hour, getting to meet more people in the grad school community because we are in Pulitzer Hall doing our thing. So being able to expand and meet everyone else and kind of grow together in that way is super important. Another thing I'm really passionate about and working with the student government is getting we're calling them side quests. So like activities where we can go to Bryant Park Winter Village or go to a Knicks game or just do things that help us just like de-stress sometimes because we do have a lot of work here. And being able to go explore the city that we live in is something I'm really passionate about. And growing as a class, getting to know each other. There's so many of us, and I really want to be able to know every single person's name and face by the end of the year. Yeah.
Great. How would you say the fact that we are such a small school? I mean, we're in this one building, Pulitzer Hall, which you mentioned, which is, in the heart of the campus, but, all of our classrooms, all of our student spaces are here. How would you kind of say that defines the community and the fact that we are all kind of working on journalism together in a way that maybe is different from a more academic type of program?
I love it because so we have this little space called Stabile, which is our kind of like student center where you get to see everyone talk, communicate, and be able to just bounce ideas off each other. And we have so many rooms in the journalism building where we can meet, schedule things. Like we meet once a week for student government. We also have phone meetings, being able to call, FaceTime, Zoom, wherever we are. If we have something that we want to explain, pitch, we meet with deans as well to discuss, all right, here's our idea. We're thinking of doing this. We've done bagel breakfasts, anything from Giving Day, fundraiser, making sure everyone is there to support our school. And then we're also planning things like a get together, being able to get everyone together and kind of, I don't know, people have been bringing up different ideas like J School sleepover or like a J School going out to explore other parts of the city. So it's really just vast, but in the building, I'm always here. I'm basically always here. And I feel like every time I'm here, I'm able to meet someone new, connect, say hi to a new professor. And there's also a lot of events in the building all the time. So you're able to meet other schools as well because sometimes they'll have different events in the building. And then you're able to have like listening sessions in the building. So everything either happens in the world room or that on the third floor across from each other, and you're able to just attend everything and anything. And it makes it so easy. There's like schedules on the board. You walk anywhere, there's like the elevator, you see all the stuff going on this week, and you'll never be left out of what's happening in the J school.
Yeah. And you're the president of the chapter of AAJA, the Asian American Journalists Association at Columbia. What's it like kind of in that role, and what are some ways you hope to engage with the community here this year?
Yeah, so the Asian American Journalists Association is not just limited to Asian Americans. Our class has a lot of international students from Asia as well. So one of my main goals was creating a community where we can foster kind of like a welcoming community of just like cultural exchange and also camaraderie. And I've also kind of leveraged my position as president of the Columbia chapter. Um, to be elected for the AJA New York State Board as well, um, as the student representative. So I've been working very closely with the AJA New York board to kind of bring those opportunities, networking opportunities, but also just like news in general from the national chapter, because they're always posting job postings or they're posting like, hey, like I need this type of source. Does anyone have this type of interview? And it's been a great resource for a lot of the AJA members. We also have a really active, I mean, not a WhatsApp chat where we're always just posting things or like food recommendations. Um, and I think one of the biggest things that I'm working on right now is I'm leading an initiative to host a Lunar New Year celebration next year with the other two AJA schools in New York. It's CUNY and NYU, where we're going to bring in API journalists to Columbia to both celebrate their work, but also to provide, just networking, connecting possibilities to the Columbia student community, but also CUNY and NYU, all while, eating dumplings. So that's probably what is going to be taking up most of my time as I try to coordinate and outreach and whatnot, as Victoria and Zach probably know. But yeah, it's been really it's been fun. It's been, a great way to just connect with the community, and it gives me the warm fuzzies because I'm like, oh, I'm making a difference in my own way. But yeah.
Great. And Zach, I know you're also involved with the student government. I think you're the parliamentarian for that. But I thought I'd also ask you about your role as a DuPont Awards fellow at the school. People may know there's a lot of, great professional prizes and awards that are administered here, including the DuPonts, the Pulitzer Prizes, National Magazine Awards, Cabot's, Chancellor Awards. What is it like being a fellow? What is that? Maybe you can tell us. And then what kind of things do you do to be involved with that process?
Yeah, so being a fellow for the DuPont Columbia Awards, I get to kind of help do the administrative side of every award except for the Pulitzer. So all those ones you mentioned, the Oaks Award, the Chancellor Award, and just last week I actually had the Chancellor Award ceremony, and we hosted Jeff Goldberg, the editor in chief of the Atlantic, came. So we got to kind of help him around the school, around campus, get him to meet students in classes, and also kind of host this wonderful dinner for him or this luncheon for him. Kind of what that process looks like. It's a lot of talking with these people who are submitting their right now. Actually, we're at the point where we've already picked the winners. We had our jury weekend at the start of November, so that was a busy week there. That was the jury weekend and the election, so I didn't sleep a whole lot that time. But I'm catching up on it now finally. But so what we did, we lock in a room. It's kind of like the conclave. You're locked in a room for 12 hours a day, and you're listening to debates over these different movies or different documentaries or different audio projects. And there's a jury of 8 people, and it's some of the top people in journalism. There's former reporters for ABC who were reporting from Poland during martial law in the 80s. There was one of the ladies there. She was in the control room when the Berlin Wall fell. So these are people who have been in journalism forever and have been in journalism, for at a very high level for a very long time. They have a great sort of eye for it. So just being in the room where those decisions are made and seeing, what really goes into the top, piece of journalism that we're awarding, that we're honoring here at Columbia, which does award the top journalism prizes in the country. The DuPont and the Pulitzer are some of the most prestigious things you could possibly, aspire to in this field. And just being around the room where people are deciding, what certain elements of a story make it truly exceptional is such a great honor to be there. And also just, being around meeting these people. One of the great things about Columbia too, as my two classmates had mentioned too, is just meeting people and being around different events and seeing different things happening. And Yeah, I'll take a second too to plug the events I've got to go to here. In September I got to see Rowan Williams, who's the former Archbishop of Canterbury, speak, which is like the top person in the Anglican Church, which is just crazy. I mean, I'm not necessarily an Anglican or necessarily know much about him, but it was just cool to see him. Just on, was it Monday, Ross? I forget what movie they're from. Was it Holdovers? Right? Was that it?
Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, got to go see them talk, and they did a great talk about AI. There's just so many wonderful sort of events happening on campus constantly, and Victoria has done some amazing work to get stuff organized too. And she's doing a great job leading the ship over at student government, and they're continually doing great work. And there's just so much happening here all the time. There's always something, and like I kind of said earlier, like if you have time at noon to go to an event, there's more than likely something happening, and more than likely someone interesting talking.
Great. And I know, a lot of you may have class coming up soon, so we won't be able to ask as many questions as I'd love to keep asking. But I thought maybe to wrap up, I'd ask each of you just some advice you might give people who are on this call or watching the video of this later, who are kind of thinking about school, advice about either like the application itself or just kind of how to approach maybe going to grad school in the future. Victoria, do you have any thoughts on that?
I would just say don't stress yourself out too much, because I know this time might be like, oh my gosh, I have to get all these applications in and know what I want. But I think grad school is a perfect way to explore the niche aspects of what do you actually want, or explore a new topic you might not have known you liked before, and being able to be like, wow, this is kind of cool. I really want to grow in this and I want to learn more about it. And I think you should look at it like that. When you're applying, just put out your best work. Something that you would be so proud of if it was published right now, or if it has already been published, be like, I'm okay, I'm all for this. Send it out, advocate for yourself, and make sure that you keep an open mind to things, because things are always changing, especially in journalism. It might be something today, might be something completely different next week. So you just have to be able to adjust and think on your feet a lot in this field, and be able to take criticism lightly, like be able to take and apply those criticisms, but also know that some things are subjective. And you have to know yourself and believe in who you are and your writing and your skills, and you'll go far.
Great. And as someone who made kind of a career change to come here, any thoughts for people kind of in those shoes who might be watching today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if what I did particularly made my application strong, but I guess I can just talk about how I approached my application as someone who did do a career pivot. I tried to really hone in on the fact that even though I don't have any journalism experience, I do have a strong purpose in coming here. So I really laid out the stakes as to why journalism is the answer for my purpose, which was to amplify marginalized communities' voices. I mean, there's so many different other graduate programs that I could have applied to, but I really, really tried to explain that journalism is the answer to that. It's the answer to me wanting to share these stories. And it's not, business, it's not law, it's not something else, it's not like, film or something else. So for me, it's like really, I tried to just really hone in on that and craft that specific drive in both my professional and autobiographical, auto, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know it's a lot. That's a lot of syllables. I know.
I just got out of law class, okay?
Nice. And Zach, how about you? Any thoughts about how to kind of approach this next step if people are going to make that application?
Yeah, I sort of echo the last point that you really want to drive what makes this, work for you and why you specifically, want to pursue journalism and what kind of internal thing takes you to keep going forward in that. I focused a lot on, growing up in a small town where there really wasn't a whole lot of oversight on the politics there. And that really is what drives me there. So another thing too, just being honest with yourself, like don't write some crazy, fabricated story. Cause obviously if you're doing that, you probably shouldn't be in journalism. You could be a great author, but probably not a journalist. Um, so yeah, really focus on being, do an honest assessment of why you want to do something, and also pick work that sort of, if you have clips for it, pick work that backs that up. Like find, something you're reporting on, for UNA, it might have been reporting on a marginalized community, something that really backs that up, or sort of an essay you might have written on it. Or for Victoria, it's a sports article or a sports broadcasting you might have done. And for me, it was sort of a local small town politics piece. It's just find pieces like that that sort of back up that purpose and really try and make it look at your application as an overall package. Don't look at it as being like, just a bunch of little pieces that you can kind of just throw at the wall. Like you want to be like a Lego set. Everything has to kind of fit together. Make one piece build on top of the next. That would be my advice.
Great. Well, this has all been wonderful advice. Thank you so much, everybody. I know that this is a kind of a time between some classes for everyone, so thank you for joining us. And I see that you might see that Victoria, Una, and Zach are in kind of similar spaces. They're actually all in different editing rooms on the fifth floor, right next to each other. There's a lot of these, facilities in the building. So, when you do need to make a kind of a private chat or Zoom or interview, we have those. But I'd like to thank them again for lining up there in that hallway and doing this chat with us on this Friday. And I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in today too for some insights into this. Luckily, if you have some more specific questions, we weren't able to get them today just because of the time constraints. But please feel welcome to join us for some upcoming sessions. I'm actually hosting one this coming Tuesday about application tips, which will take a lot of the same advice that Victoria, Una, and Zach just gave, but kind of building on that with the nitty gritty of some of the application components. So you can hear more about that in greater detail and ask questions there. So definitely don't feel like this is the last conversation you can have before the apps are due in December. So thanks again. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we look forward to being in touch really soon. Bye now.